A week prior to my child's marriage, I caught my relatives arranging to have me serve as a caregiver for roughly 15 young ones throughout the full gathering. Therefore, I altered my arrangements. On the date of the event, my offspring phoned me in panic. "Where are you located?" I simply chuckled and instructed them not to hold up for me or the meal spread I had pledged to create. My title is Charlotte Fitzgerald. I'm 72 years in age, and I never expected that at this stage I would need to instruct my own kin such a difficult teaching. For months, I had been getting ready for my offspring Marcus' ideal ceremony. I had vowed to handle the complete meal selection because I desired to reduce their expenses. I estimated that it would require me about $3.00 for every component, but I planned to perform it with affection. I had additionally proposed to adorn the gathering area, produce the table accents, and coordinate with the suppliers. It served as my present to them, my method of demonstrating how deeply I cherished my child, and how pleased I was that he had discovered affection once more. Tiffany appeared like the ideal addition to the household when Marcus presented her to me 2 years earlier. She remained consistently courteous. She addressed me as M. Charlotte with esteem. She carried me blooms when she visited my residence and proposed to assist in the cooking space. "M. Charlotte," she would utter with that appealing grin. "Allow me to aid you with those plates. Your meals are tasty. Marcus is so fortunate he developed consuming like this." Marcus remained so joyful, and after years of being a single parent, observing him in affection again filled my soul with happiness. I was in my cooking area on a Tuesday mid-day creating the last purchasing list for the meal selection when I detected sounds on the deck. My child Marcus was speaking on the device with an individual from his job, and Tiffany was conversing with her sibling Audrey, who had arrived to stay from another location. Initially, I didn't focus. I was concentrating on figuring how many pounds of protein I would require to nourish 150 attendees, how many vegetable dishes to make, and how many sweets. But then I caught my title, and something in Tiffany's manner caused me to halt. I silently shifted nearer to the cooking area pane that faced the deck, remaining concealed behind the drape. "Look, Audrey, I have all aspects perfectly arranged for the young ones at the ceremony," Tiffany uttered with that pleasant tone she always employed with me. "Marcus' parent is going to supervise them during the entire celebration. There are approximately 15 young from our attendees, from infants to adolescents, but she's completely accustomed to it. This manner, we grown-ups can relax without any bothersome disturbances." Audrey chuckled loudly and responded, "That's so clever, sibling. The elderly woman is going to handle all those noisy youngsters while you folks move, consume, and enjoy. Ideal, that way, they don't disturb us during the ritual or damage the gathering images." "Precisely," Tiffany proceeded, and her tone seemed altered, cooler. "I already informed Marcus that his parent is excellent with young and enjoys supervising them. She won't even notice we're utilizing her. She's always prepared to aid with anything. It's like possessing a complimentary expert caregiver for the full evening. Additionally, it'll occupy her so she doesn't disrupt any significant discussions." "And she consented?" Audrey inquired. "We didn't even inquire her straight," Tiffany chuckled. "Marcus just noted to her that there would be some young at the ceremony, and she right away proposed to assist if we required anything. Naturally, we agreed. She's ideal for the task, she has practice, and she's not going to bill us anything." I sensed like I had been struck in the face. There I was in my cooking area, my palms coated in powder from creating treats for their ceremony, expending my funds, my hours, and my effort to render their date ideal while they were arranging to utilize me as a complimentary household assistant without even inquiring. "The greatest aspect," Tiffany proceeded, "is that since she'll be occupied with the young all evening, she won't be able to consume much of the meal selection. She's making more nourishment for the key attendees." They both chuckled, as if they had created the most amusing remark in existence. My soul was thumping so intensely, I thought they would detect it. 72 years of existence, nurturing offspring, supervising grandchildren, always placing kin first, and this was how they rewarded me. As if I were an attendant accessible 24 hours daily, I remained there behind the drape, sensing the frustration rise from my soles to my skull. But it wasn't merely frustration. It was a combination of ache, letdown, and a shame so intense it pained my torso. For 2 years I had handled Tiffany like the offspring I never possessed. I had greeted her into my residence with welcoming limbs, involved her in all our kin customs, and instructed her the hidden formulas that had been handed down through generations in my kin. You know what else I enjoy about the arrangement. Tiffany proceeded, entirely unaware that I was hearing every term. Since the elderly woman will be chasing the young all evening, she won't be able to enter our grown discussions. You know how in-laws are, always desiring to offer their view on all and sharing dull tales about when Marcus was small. Audrey exploded into laughter. Oh my goodness, yes, my in-law is identical, always breaking in with her 50-year old stories that nobody minds about. At least yours will be helpful for once. Precisely. And the greatest aspect is that Marcus believes his parent is proposing out of affection. He doesn't notice we arranged it this way from the start. Males are so innocent, Tiffany uttered with a spiteful laugh. I detected Marcus's steps nearing after he completed his device call. What are my lovely women chuckling about? He inquired with that caring tone he always used with Tiffany. I was informing Audrey how structured I am, Tiffany responded, right away changing back to her pleasant manner. I have all sorted so the attendees young won't be a bother at the ceremony. Your parent is going to supervise them. My parent is an angel, Marcus uttered proudly, always prepared to aid the kin. It's amazing how she still possesses the vigor to chase young at her age. Yeah, it's very useful to have an in-law like that, Tiffany whispered, but Marcus didn't detect the mockery in her tone. I moved away from the pain, sensing unwell. I couldn't accept what I had just detected. This lady who had behaved like the ideal addition for 2 years, who had caused me to feel cherished and esteemed, who had even addressed me parent on unique events, actually viewed me as a complimentary worker and a bother. I went to my chamber, my limbs shaking. I positioned on the border of my mattress, the same one where I had rested beside my spouse for 30 years before illness claimed him. I gazed at the kin images on my bedside table, Marcus completing college, his initial ritual, our trips at the shore when he was a lad. I had devoted my whole existence to being the finest parent I could be, and now that I believed I was gaining an addition, I found I was just a helpful instrument. Over the following days, I behaved as if nothing had occurred. When Marcus phoned to inquire about the ceremony setups, I replied normally, "Yes, offspring, all is ideal. The meal selection is going to be tasty." When Tiffany arrived to stay and uttered, "Miss Charlotte, don't concern too much about the ceremony. Attempt to unwind and relish yourself," I grinned and acknowledged. "Naturally, dear, I'm so thrilled." But within, a scheme was forming. If they desired to act unfairly, I could act too. After all, I had existed for 72 years. I had nurtured a young on my own after losing my partner. I had managed a kin enterprise and endured things they couldn't even picture. I wasn't going to permit them to handle me like an attendant right in my presence. On Wednesday morning, 3 days after I had caught that discussion, I phoned my closest companion, Loretta. We had been acquainted for over 40 years and had always been trusted allies. Lo, I require to inform you something, and then I require you to aid me with a scheme. I uttered without introduction. Oh, Charlotte, from the sound of your tone, I already know someone angered you. Inform me all. Loretta responded, interested. I informed her the entire tale from the start, the discussion I had caught, how it caused me to feel, and how Tiffany had been behaving with me for 2 years. Loretta heard in quiet, and when I completed, she breathed deeply. Charlotte, that young woman is a deceiver. How dare she speak about you like that after all you've performed for them? You've expended a wealth on that ceremony. You've devoted months to structuring it, and this is how they reward you. I know, low, but here's the positive part. I have a scheme, and I require your aid. Name it. You know you can rely on me for anything. I described my concept step by step. Loretta became so thrilled she began applauding on the other side of the device. Charlotte, you're a mastermind. That indulged young woman is going to receive the shock of her existence. Rely on me. I've got your support on this. On Thursday, I started to implement the initial part of my scheme. I phoned all the providers I had engaged for the meal selection. Good morning, this is Charlotte Fitzgerald. I require to terminate all the requests for Saturday's ceremony. Yes, I know it's recent, but a kin crisis arose. Some attempted to bill me a termination charge, but I succeeded to terminate all by paying only minor fees. Then I phoned the Bloom shop where I had requested the extra setups I was going to present them. Excuse me, I require to terminate the table accents for Saturday. No, I don't require them for another date. I just won't be requiring them anymore. On Friday evening, the day prior to the ceremony, I filled a small travel case. I placed in outfits for 2 days, my remedies, my preferred reading, and some individual objects. Marcus had phoned earlier to verify that all was prepared. Parent, how are the setups? Do you require me to aid you with anything? No, offspring. All is ideal. Tomorrow is going to be a fantastic day. I responded with full serenity. Parent, you're the finest. Tiffany and I don't know how to appreciate you for all you've performed for our ceremony. You don't have to appreciate me for anything, Marcus. Tomorrow all is going to proceed exactly as you arranged. That evening I hardly rested, but it wasn't from anxiety. It was from the thrill of knowing I was finally going to regain my respect. On Saturday morning, the ceremony day, I arose earlier than ever. It was 5:00 in the morning, and my sight were broad open with a vigor I hadn't sensed in years. I took a rinse, arranged my locks, and donned my preferred gown, the coral-shaded one that I cherished so much, and that caused me to feel graceful. It wasn't the gown I had arranged to don to the ceremony, but a unique one I reserved for significant events, and this was certainly a significant day. Loretta reached at 7 precisely, just as we had consented. She had 2 travel cases and a plodding grin that filled me with bravery. "Ready for your day of liberty, Charlotte?" she inquired, embracing me firmly. "More than ready, Lo. I've been awaiting this instant for 2 years without even realizing it. We had reserved a deluxe relaxation center 2 hours beyond the city, a lovely spot with a pond view where we could fully unwind. The scheme involved rubs, face treatments, fine meals, and a chamber with a whirlpool. All I had reserved for the ceremony meal selection, I was now going to expend on myself for the initial occasion in decades. Before departing, I composed a note that I placed on the cooking table, right where Marcus always positioned when he arrived to stay. Dear Marcus, by the time you review this note, I'll be relishing a well-earned rest. For months, I arranged all to render your ceremony ideal. But yesterday, I discovered that Tiffany and you had different arrangements for me, apparently. My position in your unique day was to be the complimentary caregiver for 15 young during the full celebration without anyone troubling to inquire me if I desired that position. Since the meal selection I vowed was also part of my unasked duties, I chose to terminate all. I hope you locate a swift answer. I'll return Sunday evening with affection but with respect, parent. While Loretta placed the travel cases into the vehicle, I took one final glance around my residence. I gazed at the cooking area where I had arranged to prepare all evening for the meal selection. The eating room where I had been structuring the table accents, the sitting room where I had attempted various bloom setups. All of that had been performed with affection, but that affection had been misread as duty.
Charlotte, are you certain about this?
Loretta inquired me when I entered the vehicle, because once we begin, there's no reversing. Lo, I'm 72 years in age. If I don't defend myself now, when will I begin the vehicle? The journey to the relaxation center was freeing. As we observed the landscape pass by the pane, Loretta and I conversed about all we had experienced together over the years. Remember when our young were small, and we believed the largest issues were that they didn't desire to consume their greens? Loretta chuckled. I miss those basic issues, I responded. At least back then when you performed something out of affection, it was accepted as affection, not as obligation. We reached at the relaxation center at 10:00 in the morning. The spot was even more lovely than I had viewed in the web images. Perfectly groomed yards, a stunning view of the pond, and a calm environment that right away soothed me. The attendant greeted us with sparkling drinks. Welcome, women. Your chambers are prepared, and your procedures will start in 1 hour. Is this a unique event? Yes, I responded with a real grin. I'm marking my autonomy. As I positioned into my lovely chamber with a pond view, I began to picture what was occurring back in the city. The ceremony was set to begin at 4:00 in the afternoon, but meal selection setups usually started very early. Marcus would likely be phoning me from 9:00 a.m. to inquire if I required aid placing the nourishment. At 11:30, just as I was entering my initial rub procedure, my device began to sound. It was Marcus. I allowed it to sound. 5 minutes later, it sounded again and again. I switched the device off. Miss Charlotte is all fine, the rub specialist inquired, noticing my grin. Perfectly fine, dear. Please proceed. For the following 3 hours, I devoted myself fully to relishing myself. The warm rock rub eased muscles I didn't even know were tight. The face treatment left my skin shining. Loretta and I had midday meal at the relaxation restaurant. Tasty nourishment that I didn't have to prepare myself, delivered by individuals who handled me with esteem and care. You know what I enjoy most about all this, I uttered to Loretta as we consumed white beverage on the balcony facing the pond. What is it? That for the initial occasion in 2 years, I'm performing exactly what I desire to perform when I desire to perform it without having to inquire anyone if it's acceptable or if they require me to perform something else first. Loretta lifted her glass. I'll consume to that and to the expression on Tiffany's face right now. At 3:00 in the afternoon, I chose to switch my device back on. I had 17 missed phones from Marcus, 8 written notes, and surprisingly, 3 phones from Tiffany. Marcus had never phoned me so many times consecutively in his whole existence, not even when his dad was in the medical center. The written notes were becoming more and more urgent. Parent, where are you? We've been phoning you all morning. Parent, I discovered your note. Please phone me urgently. Parent, the ceremony begins in an hour. Please respond. Parent, where's the nourishment? The attendees are already reaching. Parent, please, can we converse about this after the ceremony? We require to resolve the meal selection now. Parent, Tiffany is weeping. Please aid us. The final note had reached 15 minutes past. Parent, I know you're upset, but there are 15 young here, and we don't know what to perform with them. Their guardians are inquiring who's going to supervise them. I inhaled deeply and dialed Marcus's number. He responded on the initial sound. Parent, where are you? He shouted with a urgency I had never detected from him before. Hi, offspring. I'm at a lovely relaxation center with Loretta relishing a cocoa rub. How's your ceremony proceeding? Parent, this can't be occurring. The attendees are already here and there's no nourishment. The providers are inquiring where the meal selection is. Tiffany won't cease weeping. Oh, offspring. Didn't you review my note? I described all in there. I terminated the meal selection when I discovered that my actual task was to be a caregiver, not an attendee. But parent, the ceremony has already begun. We can't terminate now. Marcus, you're a 45-year old adult with a solid position and a partner who's apparently very skilled at structuring. I'm certain you'll locate an answer. Is there a quick meal place nearby? Parent, you can't be earnest. Offspring, I've never been more earnest in my existence. Relish your ceremony. We're going to relish our relaxation. Oh, and don't anticipate me early tomorrow. We're going to have morning meal here, too. Wait, parent. Tiffany desires to converse to you. I detected sounds, weeping in the rear, and urgent tones. Then Tiffany's tone came on, no longer with her usual pleasant manner. Charlotte, you can't perform this to us. You vowed the meal selection. There are 150 individuals here. Tiffany, my dear, I responded in the serenest tone I could gather. I vowed the meal selection when I believed I was a unique attendee at your ceremony. But when I discovered I was actually the complimentary household assistant, I altered my decision. As the phrase goes, work is compensated. And I never billed for my assistances, but the young, there are 15 young here, and their guardians expect someone to supervise them. Yes, I picture that must be very challenging. Don't you have a sibling who can aid you? What was her title? Audrey. I detected she believes I'm very skilled with young. The quiet on the other side of the device was enjoyable. It lasted for a few seconds that sensed like forever. I could detect the disorder in the rear. Young weeping, grown-ups speaking loudly, and what seemed like someone urgently shifting tables and seats. How do you know about Audrey? Tiffany stuttered. And for the initial occasion in 2 years, her tone seemed damaged without that false assurance she always displayed. Oh, dear, you learn many things when you're 72 years in age. One of those things is that barriers have listeners. Especially when individuals speak so loudly on my deck. Charlotte, please can we converse about this later? Right now, I require you to know, Tiffany, you don't require anything from me. Based on what I detected, what you require is an expert caregiver. I recommend you search in the directory. I think they bill around $10 an hour per young. Let's see. 15 young for 6 hours is $900. Inexpensive compared to the $3.00 I expended on your meal selection. I detected Tiffany shouting at someone in the rear. Marcus, your parent has lost control. She says she knows all we conversed about. Then I detected Marcus's tone again, but now it seemed altered, deeper, like when he was a lad and knew he had performed something incorrect. Parent, did you detect us when we were speaking on the deck? I detected many fascinating things, offspring. For instance, that I'm an elderly woman who's helpful for occupying busy, so I don't disrupt significant grown discussions. I also detected that I'm apparently so accustomed to supervising young that I wouldn't even notice you're utilizing me. And my preferred, that I'm like possessing a complimentary expert caregiver for the full evening. The quiet was even longer this time. Loretta, who had been hearing the whole discussion from her seat on the balcony, gave me an approval sign. Parent Marcus started in a reprimanded young tone. Marcus, you're 45 years in age. You're a prosperous, smart adult. Did it seriously never cross your mind to inquire me if I desired to expend your whole ceremony chasing 15 young instead of relishing my only offspring's event? We believed you enjoy to supervise young. I enjoy to supervise my grandchildren once in a while, Marcus. I don't enjoy being the formal ceremony caregiver without anyone consulting me. And I certainly don't enjoy to detect that my addition believes I'm a bother that needs to be occupied busy so I don't obstruct. Tiffany didn't utter that. Marcus, I'm 72. I don't have memory loss. I detected every term. I detected when your partner informed her sibling that she was clever for obtaining a complimentary caregiver. I detected when they chuckled about how I wouldn't be able to consume much of the meal selection because I would be occupied. I detected when Audrey uttered, that at least her in-law would be helpful for once. This time the quiet was broken by a young's yells in the rear and a woman's tone saying, "Where's the woman who is supposed to supervise the young? My offspring escaped and he's moving all over the yard. There's your response, offspring. The event has started. Parent, please arrive. We'll compensate you. We'll give you $500 to supervise the young." I chuckled so intensely that Loretta was surprised. $500, Marcus. 5 minutes passed. It was a kin favor I was supposed to perform out of affection. And now that you've realized I'm not as foolish as you believed, you desire to compensate me $500 to damage my coral gown chasing young I don't even recognize. Tiffany shouted in the rear. "Charlotte, there's not sufficient funds in existence for me to attend that ceremony now, but I'm going to give you some complimentary guidance. Next time you arrange on utilizing someone as a worker, inquire them first. It's courteous. $2000, Marcus shouted. And now he seemed fully urgent. "Marcus, my offspring, listen to me carefully. If you had $200 to compensate me to be a caregiver, you also had funds to engage a provider instead of causing me expend my pension on your ceremony meal selection. But it turns out it was more useful for parent to compensate for all and also labor for complimentary, wasn't it?" Loretta filled me more beverage and murmured, "You are outstanding, my companion." Parent, Marcus's tone was now shattering. "Please don't perform this to me. It's my ceremony. Marcus, I'm not performing anything to you. You performed something to me. You and your partner decided I was your individual worker without consulting me. I'm just deciding that I don't accept that task. But we can't obtain a provider at this time. The attendees are going to be starving. You know what, offspring. That's called structuring. When you structure a ceremony, you're supposed to ensure you have nourishment and a caregiver. You assumed you had both for complimentary, but you were incorrect. Charlotte, you return to the area right now or we're never going to pardon you," Tiffany shouted. And now her true character was fully displaying. "There it is," I uttered to Loretta as I covered the device. "There's the actual Tiffany." I uncovered the device and responded in the serenest tone in existence. "Tiffany, my dear, there's nothing to pardon. You arranged to utilize me. I decided not to permit myself be utilized. It's as basic as that, and honestly, after detecting your true manner of tone, I'm very pleased I'm not there. You're a self-centered elderly woman. You damaged my ceremony," Tiffany shouted. "No, dear. You damaged your ceremony when you decided that reducing expenses was more significant than handling your in-law with esteem. I just decided not to be a partner to my own shame." Marcus seized the device again. "Parent, the young are moving all over the location." One entered the cooking area and toppled over the entire dessert. Another one concealed under the primary table. "The guardians are angry. Marcus, and where's that clever Audrey? Can't she aid her sibling with the young?" "Audrey says she didn't know she had to supervise young, that it was your task. How useful." The same Audrey who was chuckling that the elderly woman was going to supervise all the noisy youngsters now says she can't aid. "Marcus, please, Marcus, I'm going to end the call now because my cocoa rub is awaiting, but before I do, let me inform you something. I hope this event instructs you that your parent is not your individual worker. I'm a 72-year-old woman who merits esteem, not an attendant you can utilize when it's useful for you." "Wait, parent, what, are you really not arriving?" "I'm really not arriving. Relish your ceremony. We're going to relish our relaxation and tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll observe. First, I want you to ponder on what occurred here, and I want your partner to ponder on what it means to have a kin. But parent Marcus, I have to depart. My rub specialist is awaiting for me, and unlike you folks, she's handling me with esteem because I'm compensating her for her assistances." I ended the call and placed it on quiet. Loretta was applauding. Charlotte, that was expert. How do you sense? I sense free, low. For the initial occasion in 2 years, I sense completely free. After ending the call, I positioned on the relaxation balcony, gazing at the pond, and sensing a calm I hadn't experienced in a long time. Loretta observed me with a combination of respect and worry. Charlotte, are you certain you performed the correct thing? She inquired, taking a drink of her beverage. I mean, I know you were correct, but Marcus is your only offspring. Lo, precisely because he's my only offspring. I need to instruct him this teaching. If I don't perform it now, Tiffany is going to transform him into someone who handles his own parent like a household assistant, and I'm not going to allow that. For the following 2 hours, my device vibrated constantly, but I kept it on quiet. Loretta and I relished our relaxation procedures as if nothing were occurring. The skin treatment left my skin as smooth as an infant's, and the scented oil rub eased muscles that had been tight for years from the tension of trying to be the ideal grandparent. You know what the most amusing thing about all this is? I uttered to Loretta while we were in the whirlpool observing the dusk. What, that for 2 years I attempted so hard to be the ideal in-law that I lost my own character. I prepared what she enjoyed. I adorned how she believed was attractive. I even altered the way I clothed to fit her image of the ideal grandparent.
I always believed that was odd. Loretta confessed you, who were always so self-reliant, suddenly seemed to be inquiring for approval for all.
You were correct, and the worst aspect is that the more I attempted to satisfy her, the less she esteemed me. For her, my readiness to aid was a flaw, not affection. At 8:00 in the evening, I chose to examine my device. I had 43 missed phones, 26 written notes, and to my surprise, several notes from unknown numbers. Apparently, some kin had obtained my number to attempt to persuade me to return. The notes were becoming more and more urgent and disclosing. Marcus, parent, we had to request flatbread for all the attendees. We expended $1,200 on flatbread. Marcus, the guardians of 3 young already departed, upset because no one could supervise them. Marcus, Tiffany is in the washroom weeping. She says you damaged the most significant day of her existence. Marcus, parent, the image taker, is inquiring if he can capture kin images. I informed him Grandma couldn't reach it. An unknown number. Miss Charlotte, I'm Michael, Tiffany's father. Please, Miss Charlotte, arrive, aid us. My offspring is crushed. Another unknown number. Charlotte, I'm Audrey. I know you detected our discussion. Please pardon us. It was just a prank. I chuckled while reviewing Audrey's note. A prank, lo, arranging to utilize someone as a complimentary worker is a very costly prank. But the note that attracted my focus the most was from a number I didn't identify. Miss Charlotte, I'm Carol, the parent of one of the young at your offspring's ceremony. I wanted to inform you that several guardians and I are very disturbed because they informed us someone was supervising the young, and it turns out there's no one. Some of us already departed. What they performed to you is not correct. Look at this, lo. I displayed the note to Loretta. Apparently, I'm not the only one who believes what they performed was incorrect. Of course not. Any proper individual would realize that handling the groom's parent like that is unacceptable. At 9:00 in the evening, as we were having supper in the relaxation's graceful eatery, my device sounded again. This time it was a number I did identify. My kin by marriage, Elena, my deceased spouse's sibling. Charlotte, what's occurring? Marcus phoned me weeping, saying you didn't attend his ceremony. Elena had always been straightforward and truthful with me. I informed her the entire tale from the start, including the discussion I had caught and how I had sensed. Charlotte, you performed the correct thing, she uttered without a moment's delay. If my sibling were alive, he would have gone to locate Marcus himself to instruct him a teaching. No one handles his parent like that, especially after all you've performed for that kin. Do you really believe I performed the correct thing, Elena?
Charlotte, I've known Marcus since he was born. He's a fine lad, but that woman has him completely controlled.
It was time for someone to open his sight, and if that someone had to be you, his own parent, then so be it. Elena informed me that other kin had already learned what had occurred because Marcus had been phoning everyone inquiring for aid. Most individuals are on your side, Charlotte. Your relative Rose says Tiffany always seemed artificial to her.
And your relative Charles is angry with Marcus for handling you that way. After conversing with Elena, I sensed more assured in my choice.
I wasn't being a harsh parent. I was being a parent who esteems herself and instructs her offspring to do the same. At 10:00 in the evening, Loretta and I went to our chambers. I had a lovely suite with a private balcony facing the pond. I donned my most cozy evening attire, filled myself a glass of beverage from the bottle in the small cooler, and positioned on the balcony to gaze at the lights. My device kept vibrating constantly, but it no longer disturbed me. Every vibration was a verification that I had made the correct choice. If Marcus and Tiffany were truly regretful for what they had performed, they would have sent a note sincerely apologizing instead of continuing to attempt to control me to resolve their issue. Finally, at 11 at night, I chose to review all the notes that had reached in the last 3 hours. Marcus, parent, the ceremony is finished. It was a complete failure. Marcus, the young, damaged 2 table accents and marked attendee's gown. Marcus, Tiffany's sibling, had to supervise some of the young, and she's angry with us. Marcus, Tiffany says she won't pardon me for my parent damaging her ceremony. Marcus, parent, why are you performing this to me? I believed you cherished me. That last note pained my soul, but it also verified that Marcus still didn't comprehend anything. It wasn't about affection. It was about esteem. I could cherish my offspring with all my soul, and at the same time refuse to allow him to disrespect me. I chose to respond to only that last note. Marcus, it's precisely because I cherish you that I won't allow you to handle me like a worker. An offspring who cherishes his parent doesn't arrange to utilize her without consulting her. An offspring who cherishes his parent doesn't allow his partner to mock her. I cherish you, but I also cherish myself, and it was time for you to know that. The response came right away. Marcus' parent, Tiffany, is saying maybe it's better if we relocate to another city. She says she can't reside in the same location as someone who damaged her ceremony. I reviewed that note 3 times before responding. Tiffany was playing her final move, emotionally pressuring Marcus, threatening to remove him from me. Marcus, if Tiffany desires to relocate because she can't face the results of her actions, that's a choice you two must make as grown-ups. But know that a woman who truly cherishes you would never pull you away from your kin as penalty for something you didn't perform. There was no response after that. I remained on the balcony until very late, hearing the sound of the liquid on the pond and sensing a deep serenity. For the initial occasion in 2 years, I wasn't concerned about whether I had satisfied someone else. I wasn't thinking about what I could prepare for Marcus tomorrow, what favor I could perform for Tiffany, or how I could be a better in-law. I was thinking about me, about Charlotte, about the 72-year-old woman who had nurtured a wonderful offspring, who had sustained a joyful union for 30 years, who had endured losing her partner with respect, and who merited to be handled with esteem by her own kin. That evening, I rested better than I had in months. On Sunday morning, I arose with an odd sensation. I sensed rested and calm. It had been a long time since I had arisen without that constant worry of thinking about what I would need to perform to keep everyone content. Loretta and I had consented to gather for morning meal at 9. 6:00, but I was already awake at 7, relishing the quiet and the view of the pond from my balcony. My device had remained quiet all evening, which seemed more important to me than all the urgent notes from the day prior. Either Marcus had finally understood the point, or he was so upset that he had chosen not to converse to me any more. Both choices seemed better to me than continuing to receive notes trying to control me. When Loretta and I gathered at the relaxation eatery for morning meal, she gazed at me with interest. "You appear altered, Charlotte, brighter, I sense altered, low. It's as if I had been carrying a massive load on my shoulders for 2 years and had finally removed it." We requested a complete morning meal with fresh produce, curd, flat cakes, and brew. While we consumed, we conversed about all but the ceremony. We conversed about our arrangements for the coming months, about the volumes we desired to review, about journeys we had dreamed of taking, but always delayed to be accessible for our kin's needs. "You know what, Lo, I think we're going to take that journey to Europe we've always arranged. Seriously, you're not going to wait to observe if Marcus and Tiffany require you to supervise their future young. Marcus is 45 years in age. If he chooses to have young, he can engage a caregiver like all normal individuals do. I'll be accessible as a grandparent, not as a household assistant. After morning meal, we chose to prolong our stay a little longer. We reserved the private whirlpool for 2 more hours and expended the morning fully relaxing. It was the initial occasion in years that I had expended so much time thinking only about my own comfort. At noon, as we were filling our things to depart back, I chose to switch on my device again. I had 3 new notes, all from Marcus, sent in the early morning. Marcus' parent Tiffany and I conversed all evening. She's very pained, but she confesses that maybe we didn't handle you well. Can we converse when you return? The notes were altered, less urgent, more thoughtful. But I also noticed something significant. There was no real regret, just a confession that maybe they hadn't handled me well, maybe wasn't sufficient for what had occurred. I chose not to respond yet. I desired to reach residence, position into my own mattress, and ponder carefully about what I desired to utter and how I desired to utter it. The journey back was calm. Loretta and I conversed about what this weekend had meant to me. You know what's the most significant thing I learned, Lo? That you can cherish your kin and establish limits at the same time. For all these years, I believed that cherishing meant agreeing to all. But now I comprehend that sometimes cherishing means agreeing no. That's a teaching that many women of our age group need to learn, Loretta responded. We were nurtured to believe that our value depended on how much we offered for others. I reached residence at 5 in the afternoon. The residence sensed altered, as if it had been vacant for much longer than 2 days. I prepared myself some brew, donned my most cozy outfits, and positioned on my preferred seat in the sitting room. It was time to choose what to perform next. At 6:00, the entrance bell sounded. I gazed out the pane and saw Marcus's vehicle parked outside. He was standing at my entrance alone with his skull down. I inhaled deeply and went to open it. "Hi, parent," he uttered in a gentle tone. He appeared weary as if he hadn't rested in days. "Hi, Marcus, enter." We positioned in the sitting room, him on the couch and me in my seat. The quiet extended for a few minutes until Marcus finally uttered, "Parent, I have to regret I'm hearing." Tiffany and I conversed all evening after the ceremony. At first she was angry with you, but when I informed her exactly what you had caught, she realized how poor all she had uttered sounded. "And you realized, too," Marcus lowered his skull even more. "Yes, parent, I realized that for 2 years I've been handling you like you were my worker instead of my parent." "And how do you sense about that?" "I sense horrible. I sense ashamed. Dad must be turning in his resting place because of how I handled the woman he cherished for 30 years. That mention of his dad touched my soul, but I kept my composure. "Marcus, I require you to comprehend something. It's not just about what occurred with the ceremony. It's about 2 years of assuming I was accessible for all, without ever inquiring me if I desired to perform it. I know, parent, and you're correct. When Tiffany proposed we inquire you for aid with something, I never halted to think if it was fair to you. I just believed parent always agrees yes, so it's no issue. And Tiffany, how does she really sense? Marcus breathed deeply. She's ashamed. She says she's never had an in-law before and didn't know how to handle you, but she recognizes that what she uttered about you to Audrey was very incorrect. Marcus, does she recognize that, or are you trying to ease what she really believes? No, parent, she recognizes it. In fact, she desires to arrive regret to you personally, but I informed her I had to converse to you first. I arose and walked to the pane. The yard appeared ignored. I had been so occupied with the ceremony setups that I hadn't had time to care for my blooms. Marcus, I require to inquire you a very straightforward question, and I want you to answer me truthfully. Inform me. Parent, does Tiffany esteem me as an individual, or does she view me as a useful asset who is accessible when she requires me? Marcus was quiet for a long instant. Parent, I think until yesterday, two things had gotten confused, but after seeing the results of handling you as an asset, she realized that she had lost sight of the individual. And you, do you view me as your parent, or as your individual worker? Parent, that question pains, but I comprehend why you're inquiring it. And the truthful answer is that for these 2 years, without realizing it, I started to view you more as someone who resolved my issues than as my parent, who merited to be consulted and esteemed. I positioned down again and gazed at him directly in the sight. Marcus, I value your truthfulness, but I require you to comprehend that things are going to alter from now on. I comprehend, parent. What do you require from us? I require that the next time you want to inquire me for a favor, you inquire me if I can and if I want to perform it, not assume that I'm going to agree yes. I require you to handle me as an attendee at your kin events, not as part of the assistant's personnel. And I require Tiffany to comprehend that I am her spouse's parent, not her worker. All of that is fair, parent. Anything else, yes. I require you to comprehend that I have the right to agree no without giving reasons, and that when I agree no, you are not going to attempt to control me or cause me to sense guilty to alter my decision. Comprehended? Yes, parent. And Marcus, one more thing. The next time Tiffany speaks poorly of me to someone, you are going to protect me. You are not going to remain quiet while your partner disrespects me. Marcus acknowledged vigorously. You're correct, parent. I should have protected you from the start. We were quiet for a few minutes. I could see that Marcus was processing all we had conversed about. Parent, do you pardon me? Marcus, you are my offspring, and I will always cherish you. But pardon is something that is constructed with actions, not just with terms. I require to see real alterations in how you handle me before I can utter that all is pardoned. That's fair. And Tiffany, are you going to give her an opportunity to regret? If she desires to regret for real, not because you inquired her to, but because she's truly regretful for how she handled me, then yes, I will hear her. She desires to, parent, but she's afraid you'll reject her. Marcus, I don't reject individuals who regret sincerely, but I also don't accept false regret. Just to maintain the calm, I comprehend. When would be a good time for her to arrive? Give her a few days to ponder carefully about what she desires to utter. And Marcus, ensure she comprehends that I don't expect her to act we're best companions overnight. I just expect basic esteem. Marcus remained a little longer at my residence, and for the initial occasion in a long time, we had a real discussion between parent and offspring, not superior and worker. He conversed to me about how he had sensed during the ceremony, seeing the attendees wonder why there was no prepared nourishment, and why the young were moving unsupervised everywhere. Parent, when the guardians started inquiring me where the individual who was going to supervise the young was, I realized that we had never inquired you if you desired to perform that task. We just assumed it. And how did you sense when you realized that? I sensed like a fool, parent, and I was ashamed that my own parent had to instruct me such a basic teaching about esteem. When Marcus departed that evening, I pondered about our discussion. He seemed genuinely regretful, but I also knew that regrets are simple when you're faced with results of your actions. The real test would be to see if the alterations lasted beyond this crisis. The next 3 days were calm. I didn't receive any phones inquiring for favors, no notes assuming I would be accessible for something. It was an odd but freeing sensation. For the initial occasion in 2 years, my days were completely my own. On Wednesday midday, Marcus phoned me. Parent, Tiffany desires to arrive Converse to you tomorrow midday if you consent. Is she certain she desires to perform it, or does she sense required? She's certain, parent. She's been very quiet at these past few days, pondering on all that occurred. Okay, inform her to arrive tomorrow at 4:00. Thanks, parent. It means a lot to both of us that you're giving her this opportunity. Marcus, I'm not performing it for you, I'm performing it for myself because I want to know if the situation has an answer or if I need to accept that my addition and I are never going to get along. On Thursday at 4 precisely, the entrance bell sounded. When I opened the entrance, I was surprised to see Tiffany. She appeared completely altered from how I had always viewed her. She wasn't donning cosmetics. Her locks was drawn back in a simple tail, and she was clothed in pants and a simple top. But the most notable thing was her look. She no longer had that ideal grin she always displayed. She appeared vulnerable, almost delicate. "Hi, Miss Charlotte," she uttered in a gentle tone. "Thank you for viewing me. Enter Tiffany. Position wherever you desire." She positioned on the border of the couch as if she were ready to escape at any instant. I positioned in my seat and awaited for her to utter. "I don't know where to begin," she confessed after a few minutes of quiet. "Begin wherever you sense comfortable. Miss Charlotte, I want to regret for all I uttered about you. It was harsh, disrespectful, and completely unfair. And why did you utter it?" Tiffany lowered her skull. "Why, because I'm 26 years in age and I've never had an in-law before. My parent passed when I was 15, and my father remarried a woman who never cherished me. When I encountered Marcus and I encountered you, I didn't know how to manage having a parent figure again, and your answer was to handle me like a worker. It wasn't deliberate, Miss Charlotte. At first, you frightened me a lot. You're so confident, so skilled at all you perform, so cherished by the whole kin. I sensed like I would never match. Tiffany, that doesn't explain why you conversed about me that way with your sibling." Tiffany was quiet for a long instant, and when she uttered again, her